Alright everybody, welcome back to the shop. So what I am doing today is I am starting, I think somebody wrote with a pencil on this thing. I'm starting a new guitar in the shop. It's going to be obviously, it's not going to be a Les Paul. It's a Strat. I've got a Sugar Pine body with the traditional routing. So looks to be two pieces. Yeah, two pieces. So it is 4 pounds 5 ounces. So about 4 1/3 pounds. It's been sanded to 220. This is the neck that's going on it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically record the entire process from this to finished guitar at a gig. So the first thing we want to do, I've actually already done several things kind of ahead of time, but I haven't really done any work yet. Just kind of preliminary, checking this, checking that. So on the neck here, I found 5 frets that were high. So what I'm going to do, and this is a left-handed neck, so the position markers would be, you know, on the top if you were playing this way, but it's going on a right-handed guitar. So the position markers obviously are in the wrong spot for a right-handed orientation. So I'm going to drill and put new top dots on this neck. I'm going to level the frets. We're going to stain the fingerboard. It's a nice rosewood grained fingerboard, but we're going to darken it up a little bit. So each one of these things is going to be a separate video. So we're going to start with the body because I'm still waiting on some stuff to come in, because there are quite a few shitbag sellers on eBay these days who like to list that they have 18 of something available, and when you order 2, you get no message back, anything for like a week. And then when you inquire as to, well, hey, has this shipped yet? Because I haven't seen an email or a message that it shipped. What you generally get is, well, we're out of stock right now. You know, our truck's coming in this week or next week, so we're going to get it to you as soon as possible. And when you challenge them and say something to the effect of, well, you're still showing 12 available right now. There were 18 available when I bought my 2. So what's going on? They cancel, and then they always put buyer requested cancellation of order, which is total bullshit. And then I found several sellers who, up until a couple of months ago, I've ordered stuff from for years. All of a sudden now, well, due to COVID-19, it's hard to get mail, and it should not take 16 days to get an item from Houston, Texas to Hammond, Louisiana. I could literally walk from my shop in Hammond to Houston, do a local pickup, and walk back, and it would not take 16 days. So I, in my opinion, not all, but some of those sellers are gaming the shipping system and then claiming, oh, well, due to COVID-19, well, I about had enough of it. So anything going forward that I can get off of Amazon, I'm buying off of Amazon. Some stuff, it's hard to find on Amazon. About the only supplier out there that I've ordered from many times, and I've only had one issue in all the years I've been ordering, is StuMac. I'm not endorsing StuMac. I'm just saying they've got their shit straight to where when you order something, generally 3 days later, it's at your front door. So anyway, So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use some aqua coat, which is basically it's a grain filler. It comes in several different colors or shades or tints, and I think you can actually tint. This is clear. You can actually tint this, I believe, to whatever color you want. This is going to be a solid color body. I'm going with this right here. Gracie's Vintage Finishes, nitrocellulose lacquer, coral. So this should be nice and opaque or whatever. So you really don't need to use clear. If I was gonna do a burst or a 3-color burst or something like that, obviously you would want to use clear. You wouldn't want to color, anything in. But this is going to be a solid color, so you really don't have to use clear. It's just, this is what I've got right now in my shop, so this is what I'm going to use. So I'm going to go through the different steps and the process of applying this. It's fairly straightforward, but I get questions in my Brotherhood of Guitar Finishing group occasionally about what grain filler do you use, how do you use it, what's the process. It's like nobody wants to read the actual directions on the can or jar or whatever container. They just want to go out and just ask somebody that's already used it. So y'all bear with me. I'm going to get set up here and I will be back in a couple of minutes. Alright, so here we go. So the directions on the container, you can tint it. It says can be tinted with water soluble trans tints and dyes. So we're not gonna tint this. We're just gonna go straight on with it. There are several different application methods. The one that I use is the one that I'm going to show you because it's the one that I'm familiar with. Basically, you just open this thing up and it's clear. It says apply generously. So I'm just going to grab some on my glove and then I'm just going to start kind of pushing it down into that grain. You want to work on small sections at a time, kind of like if you were waxing your car. And you want to kind of put some, you don't want to put so much pressure that you squeeze it all out, but you want to put enough pressure to where you're actually pushing it down into the grain. And what this is going to do, obviously, as the name implies, it's going to fill that grain to where when you come in with your primer or paint or whatever it is you're going to do to it, it sets nice and flat, so you can get a nice shiny, nice smooth surface on it. So anyway, so that's what you want to do. You just want to continue working it in everywhere. And just keep working it around. Kind of overlap as you go. If you're doing it right, you're going to feel the burn right here in your forearms and your bicep and your shoulder. Like I say, you want to kind of overlap sections. We got something in there. So once you get the entire surface coated, what I usually do is I just start back at the beginning and then kind of put it on a little heavier. And just when you get to the point where you think you might have too much, put a little bit more. And then once you get a good slathering on there, you can take this glove off because you're kind of done with it. Then you can take your putty knife. Normally I use a plastic one, but I can't find where it is. Be very careful with the metal, even the plastic one. If it's a soft wood, you don't want to push down. You just want to use this and just kind of float it right on top of the guitar. And you're just going to pull off that little bit like that. I usually take the old glove that I just took off, kind of peel that off. Again, you don't want to push so hard that you end up cutting a wrinkle in your top. Take that old nasty glove, throw it in the trash. And we're going to let this set up. I think it says 30 minutes maybe. Let's look. Yeah, let it dry 30 to 45 minutes. So we're going to give this about 30 minutes to dry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my shop towel, fold it in half, and then rip it in half. And then I'm going to use this and I'm going to go clean up. You can see around the pickup cavities and everything where it's kind of there. I'm just going to go clean that up. about like this. We take the dry one, kind of move that off. This stuff is non-toxic, so you can actually use your finger. I use the glove when I put it on because I don't want it to get all over everything. So, like I say, we're going to let this sit for about 30 minutes. Then we're going to flip it over and do the back side. Same process, same procedure. When we do the back, we're going to do the sides at the same time. Then we'll put a nice big thick coat on there. Use our putty knife. Not a whole lot of pressure at all. You don't want to scratch your guitar. Then we'll let that set up for about 30 minutes. And then we will do another coat and then another coat. It says 2 to 3 coats recommended. I will reassess after the second coat, and if I think it needs a third, I'll do a third. But we'll pick this back up when I do the back and the sides. All right, so we gave that about a half hour to dry. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do the same thing on the back. Alright, once you get your initial coverage on there, be the same as the front. We're just going to grab a little bit more, and then we're just going to take our whole hand and just kind of push it down in that grain. And you can feel, like if you get a piece of wood maybe that was loose on the route, on the cavities, you can feel if it's in there. Like there's another piece right there. Alright. Let me get one more little bit here. And then what we'll do is we'll just kind of hold this thing up like this and start hitting the sides. Usually on the end grain, it's usually pretty tight, so you don't have to slather as much on there. So, alright, you can kind of feel right there. Always keep two hands on your guitar. So, alright, so we got that. We'll put a little bit more back here with the whole hand. Moderate pressure this time, kind of pushing it down in that grain. When you're doing this, try not to do it. I've seen some people put it like on brown paper, like a butcher paper or something like that. I don't like to do that because it has a tendency, if it's not completely dry on one side or the other, when you flip it over to do the other side, it'll kind of stick sometimes. Get like a chemical resistant mat. You can get them all over the place. They're relatively cheap. So, alright, so now that I've got that on there, the next step would be to take this glove off and then take our scraper here and just lightly peel that top coat off. Kind of see how much I peeled off of there. I wouldn't worry about the sides. Like I say, I didn't really put enough on there to get much of a build up. Like I say, the end grain is generally pretty tight anyway. Alright, so what we'll do now is we'll let this thing set up for about 30 minutes. And then we'll take a look at it and we'll see if we need to. I mean, I'm pretty sure we're going to do a second coat, but we'll know after this first coat if we'll need to do 3. So, alright, I will catch up with y'all. Let's see here. In about 30 minutes. Alright, here we are again for the second coat. This time I'm going to do it kind of like I did towards the end of that first coat. Just going to kind of lay it on there like that. And just kind of work it in. Again, you can feel when you get something on there. There we go. Oh, there it is. Right there. Want to clean out your cavities there because this stuff will get hard. I mean, it won't get rock hard, but you don't want to get everything done and then start installing your hardware or your electronics and then realize your cavities are too small now because this stuff has dried, and then you got to break it all down. And not that I've ever done that before. So, alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stand this on its end and go ahead and do this back. Again, I'm using a moderate amount of pressure, trying to push this in to the actual grain of the wood to fill all those pores in. once we get that done, grab whatever you got in your trim cavity there. We're going to go ahead and do these sides again. As you're doing the second application of this, you can kind of feel where you left clumps of the first application. It almost feels like the wood, like you might have had some router tear out or something, but that's fine. It'll all sand. It'll sand down just fine. This time I am not going to squeegee it. I'm just going to let it sit just like it is right there. A little bit more down here on the bottom so I can kind of feel it. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this little end pin hanger in there, about right there. Stuff down in there. Make sure everything looks good on it. And then we're going to take this and hang it up over here. And we're going to let that thing hang over there for about 30 minutes. And then we'll take a look at it. So let's close this up. I really like using this stuff. It's easy cleanup. There's no nasty smell. You don't have to add anything to it. You can, but you don't have to. There's a little bit of an ammonia smell to it, so make sure you got good ventilation. It's clear. It doesn't stain. I imagine if you got some on your clothes, it may make them look wet forever, but you can also use this. This is a widely used grain filler in the guitar community. I don't really like working with it because it's shit. It gets everywhere, and to me it dries too fast, and especially using the gloves like that. This stuff will stay wet a little longer than this Timbermate. So anyway, alright, so we're going to give this thing about 30 minutes to hang over there, and then we're going to take a look at it. So I will see y'all again in 30 minutes. Alright, so it's been sitting up there for about 30 minutes. It's pretty dry. What I'm going to do is, I've been kind of saving the scraps here. I'm just going to kind of rub some of the bigger pieces and chunks off here. here is an offcut from a guitar body that I made, and I used double-sided tape and put some cork on it. You can buy a sheet of cork and then just cut it to size and then double-sided tape it on there. Then I've got some 800 sandpaper here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some of this off. About like that. And then I'm just going to lightly rub it. It might still be a little bit wet. What we can do is just kind of pull it back like that here. Spots where it's still a little wet. Always go with the grain, don't ever go cross grain. You can see it kind of peeling off in sheets there, which is fine. See what happens here. Yeah, it's still a little bit wet. So, alright, well, we're going to let it set up, I guess. We'll let it set up maybe for a couple hours, maybe an hour. We'll see where it's at. It's kind of dry here, but this top, the second piece of pine, it's like it's not wanting to dry as fast as the rest of it. So I'm not in any rush at all. So I will show you my trick here. When it comes to start sanding in the horns, and it basically any curve on a guitar, for about $2 you can get you a pool noodle. And what I generally do is I'll cut off about that much. And what that will allow you to do is get down in this area here and here. So if you see on the horn here, it'll allow you to get in there, and it's soft so it won't cut or reform or reshape anything. So anyway, so alright, so what we're going to do is going to put this trusty dusty hanger back in there. And we're going to let it hang, like I say, probably for another hour. And then we'll take a look at it and see. So, alright, well, I'll see y'all in about an hour. Alright, here we are. So, I let this thing set up for about 2 hours. It's should be good and dry now. I also, instead of using the 800, I think that's a little bit too fine, so I'm going to use some 320 here. I'm just going to put it on here and go around like this. You can actually see it starting to, let's see here. You can actually see it starting to powder up on the edges there. So that is not the guitar, that is the aqua coat that we put on. not pushing hard, just basically letting just the weight of my hand go ahead and do the back. Use the old hand on this. Again, I'm not pushing hard. Use our hand to kind of grab the edges. The aqua coat, when it's dry, it will leave a little bit of a sheen. So you can kind of watch it as you sand, as you just kind of knock that sheen down just a little bit. Now I'm going to get my noodle here. I'm going to wrap that sandpaper around it and hit this right here. Make sure you keep your paper tight on the noodle. inside piece right there. Follow up with your hand. Want to go over it and knock off any sheen that may still be left. Alright, and to clean this, we'll get some naphtha over here. Well, move stuff out of the way. There is some naphtha right there. A little bit on there. You can see the dark spots on the horn here, or not the horn, but the contour, where there's still some aqua coat grain filler on there. Same thing here with the side, but right now I'm just wanting to clean it off. Again, if I was going to burst this guitar, I would have tinted the aqua coat, maybe with a little bit of brown or black, depending on, you know, what color, what kind of burst I was going to do. So we'll get a little bit more. So this is looking pretty good. It's definitely a lot smoother than it was. what I may do, just to be safe, is I may go ahead and do one more round of the aqua coat on it. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. It only takes a few minutes, and I would rather have just a little bit too much than get to the primer stage and then realize that I missed a spot. So, not that I've ever done that before, but and you can kind of see the darker areas. Let me turn this light out. You can kind of see some of the darker areas up in here. That's where the Aquamate or Aqua Coat, it's Timber Mate and Aqua Coat, but I keep calling it Aquamate. But anyway, so, and you can see right here on the horn where it's just a little bit darker here. That is the Aqua Coat. So yeah, like I say, I think I'm going to do one more pass with the Aqua Coat, and then I'll probably let this one set up overnight, and then come back out here tomorrow and finish up on the video with this, which I think this is probably going to be part one of many on this particular project. So alright, so I will catch y'all probably tomorrow when I take this next coat, or next round of Aqua Coat. When I get ready to sand it off tomorrow, I'll get the camera fired up, and we'll go from there. So I will see y'all tomorrow. Alright, here we are. I let this set up overnight, and you can see it's got a nice sheen to it now, and you can feel it. It is completely 100% dry. So we're just going to pick up where we left off last night, and we're just going to kind of lightly just kind of knock this down. Kind of feel it as you go. Like right here, it's still kind of rough, you can see. I'm not pushing hard when I sand, just kind of the weight of my hand. Let the tool do the work for you. this contour right there, right this second. Now we're going to move over to our noodle. kind of want to feel as you go. You can feel any little imperfection, like right here. I just felt it. Switch on to the noodle. Once you get it knocked down, then you can just go back with your hand. So now that we've got probably about 90% knocked off, what you want to do is you just kind of want to go around it with your hand, and you can feel like right here I missed some all around this upper horn. A little bit right here, maybe a little bit more work right there, a little bit right up here in this area. So basically the upper horn and the lower horn. So what we're going to do is we're going to, yeah, you can see still kind of shiny right there. So let's knock that down a little bit. All right, that's good there. Now we got to get up around in here. some right around in here maybe. Alright, that feels pretty good. Just remember, we are going to be using nitrocellulose lacquer on this body, so any imperfection, you can multiply that by about 5,000, and that's what it's going to look like when the lacquer's on. So, I mean, you can literally take a human hair and put it right there, put 3 coats of lacquer, and the hair will look like it's standing up that high. That's how thin this lacquer is. So, alright, so this looks kind of okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean my mat here real quick. Reposition everything, and then we're going to give this a good wipe down with some lacquer, or not lacquer, naphtha. Don't wipe it with lacquer. Shop towel here. One way that I use to see if I have any bald spots after I do my sealer, especially on a lighter color wood, you can kind of saturate your cloth with naphtha, and if you put it on here, I can see it. I mean, it's going on and it's immediately starting to evaporate off, but when I hit this neck pocket, it's going to stay dark there for a long time. I can already see it's already evaporating off here, so I'm fairly confident that I have a good seal, at least on the top. This darker spot back here, that is actually the aqua coat down in there. I'm not that worried about it because I'm going to throw white primer over the top of this, and then my color coat. If I was going to do a burst, there's probably about another couple of hours worth of work to do on this body as it sits right now, but I'm not doing a burst, so it's almost empty, so it didn't spill. And then on the back here, I just put a stripe right there, and you can see how dark it is where I hit it there, and it's already starting to evaporate off here. So that tells me that I have a fairly decent grain feel on the back. See, that neck pocket is still wet with the naphtha and it's already dried everything up top here, so I'm alright with that. And I'm just going to wipe this one more time on the sides. And that's it right there. With the grain feel, feels like a piece of plastic now. So what we did, actually let me clean my bench off, and we'll come back and we will discuss everything we did. Alright, so in summary, we've got a sugar pine body, which is, I guess, a form of yellow pine. I've never worked with it before. I've done white pine for a couple of Esquire builds. This one is sugar pine, which is a little bit heavier than white pine. It's 4 pounds 5 ounces. It's a 2-piece body. You can kind of see, well, right there you can see the one piece, and then this upper bout and horn are the second piece. We hit it with 220 to start. Then we came in with some Aqua Coat clear wood grain filler. You can tint this. I don't. If I'm going with a solid color, obviously there's no reason to waste your dye or tint on clear if you're going with a solid color. If I was going to burst this, I probably wouldn't use the clear. I would use Timbermate, and I would stain that black or brown or blue or red or purple or whatever color I wanted to go with my burst or translucent top or whatever. I would stain it. We did not do that because this is going to be coral solid color. So did 3 coats of this. You basically put a coat on, use a putty knife or a squeegee or a credit card or whatever, lightly scrape it off, let it set for a half hour, come back, do a light sand with a 320. Second coat, same thing, put it on, squeegee it off, get about 60-70% off of what you just put on. Let it set for a half hour. I actually did 3 coats on this. The third coat I let set up overnight, so it would probably set up for probably about 10 or 11 hours. I came back in with some 320. I have a cork-backed sander that I made of an offcut of mahogany on a guitar body that I made. Just put some cork on it with double-sided tape. Use that for all your flat spots. Don't push hard. Just let the weight of your hand and the tool do the work. For the curves and the horns, you can take a pool noodle, cut off, I don't know, what is that, about 3 inches. Cut about 3-4 inches off to get down inside your horns and your bouts and everything. Once that's done, you just clean it off with some naphtha, and you check it as you're sanding. You can feel, believe it or not, you can feel the tiniest imperfection with your hand. So we're going to call this one done for now. I'm going to put the hanger back in right here. Right there like that, and we're going to hang this back on the R&D rack over there. This is part 1 of a mini part, not mini as in M-I-N-I, mini as in M-A-N-Y. This is part 1 of a mini part guitar finishing / assembly that I'm going to do. So we're going to take it from step 1 to step whatever. I don't know how many steps there are. I've never really actually counted and kept track, so this is going to be good for me as well. So anyway, one thing that I will say, I think I said it earlier in the video, whatever type of grain filler or wood filler or whatever you use, make sure you keep your neck pocket clean. That is the insides and especially this front edge right here, because this stuff dries pretty hard. I mean, it's not hard as a rock, but I mean it dries extremely hard, and you don't want to do all of this work and get ready to put your neck on and then realize that it doesn't fit now, and then you have to come in here with a sharp chisel or sandpaper or whatever. You run the risk of really widening your neck pocket out or messing this angle up right here where the neck sits. Your pickup cavities, basically any route that you have, make sure as you go, before you set it down and let it dry for a half hour or overnight or whatever, make sure you clean out your cavities here. You want to keep those as close to factory or as close to the shape that you routed as possible. Same thing on the back. The neck hole, the screw holes for the neck plate to hold the neck on, I'm not worried about those because I'll run a poker through there anyway. Before I do anything, I'll run that poker through, and that'll clean most of that crud out like this. You can see it running through right there. So not so much worried about those, but any of your routed areas, neck pocket, control, cavity, pickups, bridge, jack, tremolo on the back for the strat. So just keep that in mind. I've got a little bit on this edge right here that is probably like a millimeter over, so I'm gonna have to go in with my chisel and just kind of scrape that out, but I'm gonna let it dry maybe for another day or two, because we're done with this probably for at least a week or so. My paint booth is out of commission right now. My paint booth's been out of commission pretty much the whole month of September. We've had 2 hurricanes in the last 3 weeks, and we've got a tropical storm that's coming this week. So my paint booth is in my shop here, but my exhaust fan, I have to keep that thing pretty much secured up. I've got a protective cover outside, and it's all taped up and secured, so I can't run my exhaust fan for my paint booth. And I don't really want to detonate my shop with all the fumes accumulating in here while I'm trying to do. I've got a couple of guitars that are waiting on flake, and I've got this one, and then I've got another guitar that I need to paint copper. So I've got a lot of work for my paint booth stacking up right now, but that's not what this video is about. So all right, so we'll kill it here, and we will be back with part 2.